validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly, making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. Whoa. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield.
Look at that. Delayed intervention. How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we're talking about this, that, and everything in between. We got us a pretty interesting show tonight. We're revisiting this Gen Z topic that me and a buddy of mine was talking about on a show almost a year ago. It's like deja vu, per se. When we're talking about today's topic of what's driving Gen Zs to quit their jobs, apparently it is still happening. We were talking about it in a maximized capacity where they were leaving because the work environment was atrocious. Now they're just leaving for the lack of motivation. And we're going to be talking about that today on tonight's show. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe. If you see the reaction buttons on the sidelines there, go ahead and tap on those reaction buttons. Show some support for the show. If you guys want to put your comments into the comment section, you can do so by clicking that link, approving a mic, approving a camera, and being on in real time. We get to bring you up onto the show. You can see us. We can see you. You can say what you got to say and get it out of the way. You can also do some shout outs. We've been dealing with some shout outs as of recent, which much respect for that. Really appreciate those who want to shout out their family, their friends, their countries, all of that. Definitely a good thing to do. So if you want to do that, you can also come on and get that as well. Let's see. We are live 7 nights a week. We typically start about 20 minutes ago at, at 10 o'clock Central Time, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 7 o'clock California time, which is 4 a.m. on that Green Minutes time and Universal Standard Time. So you can see us every night of the week around about the same time as you see us right now. And note that we have a different topic on just about every night of the week. So you're going to be enjoying that going forward. Now, hopefully we're going to get some Gen Zs coming in and putting their 2 cents in about what they like and dislike about today's topic, and maybe even give us some clarity as to why they think and believe the way that they do, so that we can kind of get some stretch information in there, because I got a little bit on the top, but not a lot. Now, as it happened yesterday, we're going to try this again. Just get them out there. First one in the house tonight, representing Tampa Bay, Bayside. They screaming Oakland, California in the house. So if you're from Oakland, you might as well give your shout out tonight. So let's rock out with Bayside real quick. He said purple rain, purple rain. Look now, that's better than the crying game. Way better than the crying game. I can tell you that. But that was scary. Look, if you ain't seen the crying game, you don't know what I'm talking about. But if you've seen the crying game, bro, I was like, ah, and we took off running. I'm telling you, it was crazy. But it was oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I just thought I found this tie while I was moving some things around, and I was like, I want to wear a suit that goes with this tie. So I got the satin tie with the satin blazer, and I was like, black on purple. That'll look royal. Special shout out. Oh, special shout out to the Royal Treatment. They're a black-owned moving company, I do believe in Arkansas. So if you're in that area and you're looking for somebody who's going to give you a good move at a good price, where they're going to do all the heavy lifting for you, definitely make sure that you give that shout out to them. Oh, you want me to pop my collar? Oh, my collar is already popped, my boy. It's already there. I made sure that everything is it's the shadows of the because I'm dealing with different lighting over here. And look at that. 30-second time in, we've got Mr. Satellite bringing it back. He's been jamming on the show. He's been dancing on the fiddle and everything that I've doing it better than Will Smith. And if you guys diving in real quick, like you picked up just like you did yesterday. It's almost like the perfect time for you guys. That's right. You get to a certain age and you can't rock out like you used to rock out, because you do too much head grip banging and you get a migraine. You be sitting there enjoying yourself. You got to put a mean mug on your face to keep your skull intact. It's crazy. It's definitely that work. Now, oh Lord, he's doing backflips on the roof. He's doing backflips on the roof. Oh my goodness. Okay, so today is a little bit more sociable than yesterday, because yesterday we were giving you a lot of information. We gave you information about Chile, Dubai, trust, trust companies that create trust. So you had a lot of stuff that you guys could look into yesterday. Today we're going to be talking about why these young whippersnappers, these jits, these YNs is out here quitting their jobs. So and all of us old school cats, we got the opportunity to throw a lot of constructive criticism in there, because I've come to a point, and that point, once I get there, y'all are going to be like, oh yeah, that wouldn't fly with us. Because back in our day, mama would have got us a whooping, dad would have got us a whooping, grandma would have got us a whooping. We would not have been able to ride the way they ride right now, but they riding this way. So join me as we dig deep into the reasons why Gen Zs are quitting their jobs in droves now, and see if we can uncover the truth behind this trend. Now, the Gen Z's mass job quitting phenomenon has been making headlines lately again, because it was making headlines this time last year. And it's no surprise why. So, this generation, which is right now the 18 to 25-year-olds, which are probably 2006, 2007, when they were born, to date, those kids, they out there wilding. So if you were born in the 90s, if you were born in the 80s, even if you were born in the early 2000s, yeah, you're looking at this like, what? Nah, that's not going to work out. But that's what's going on right now. These kids is out here walking out on the job. This generation is redefining the workforce and challenging traditional norms, which is going to lead them to get replaced by robots, because robots don't complain. Now, Gen Z's mass job quitting phenomenon, often referred to as revenge quitting, but being masked by some of the kids as smart quitting. It's not smart quitting. It's stupid. If you've got a good paying job, you've got job consistency, and then you're going to walk off of the job because you don't have enough days off on the days that you want off. That's not smart. But revenge quitting, like you can't work me on Thursday, so I quit kind of stuff. That's clearly what we're experiencing. However, it is indeed reshaping the workforce landscape in 2025, because regardless of what the workforce is like, employers need workers until they get enough machines to replace those workers. So eventually the employers have to fold on the demands of the new workforce. Now, recent studies and surveys provide insight into the trends and the underlying causes for the Gen Z's quitting. And the first thing that comes up is the work-life balance, where 77% of Gen Zs responded considering work-life balance crucial when considering a job opportunity. The Gen Zs rejects traditional always-on work models, seeking autonomy over their schedules and emphasizing mental health. Now, the employers failing to accommodate flexible schedules or remote work options may face higher turnover rates. McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, Waffle House, high turnover rates, as the rigid office hours conflicts with Gen Z's need for balance and personal time. I can't really call it personal time. They complain that it is too hard, and then they complain that it's too long. You already get a break every 4.5 hours. I remember back in my day where we used to work 18 hours straight with no breaks. Now you guys get paid breaks. We didn't get paid breaks. When you clocked out, or when you took a break, you clocked out. And if you didn't clock out, you were stealing time. So you should either keep working, find something to do, or clock out and go home. Not ever was there a scenario where hanging out on a job off the clock was encouraged. Never. But that's what these kids are dealing with now. They're like, oh no, 4 hours of work consistently without a break is too much work. And then they're following up with that, like, oh, a 4-hour day is too much work. Stressful. Now, this is leading to flexible work policies, where 72% of Gen Zs have either left or considered leaving a job due to the lack of flexibility of work options, meaning that they don't want to be present for work on a regular basis, but they want to get that paycheck. Now, I've been telling you guys for the longest to set yourself up in a situation where you can create a standalone business, generate some wealth, put money away, invest in some things where the money that you get can provide you the standard of living that you want, so that you choose to work. You don't have to work, because when you have to work, that's a whole different dynamic. Bayside said, I totally don't understand the behavior, because it's getting more expensive to live and you're not working, which means you're not earning unless you're investing heavy. Well, that's actually the dynamic. If you don't take 95% of your income and invest it heavy, you're going to be in a situation where you're going to have more bills than you have profits, and you have to get out there and go and make that extra money. That's when you start seeing side jobs. They call them hustles. Hustling used to be illegal ways to generate revenue, but now it's replacing the side job scenario. They're calling them side hustles, where it's not an official job. You're kind of like subcontracted into this job. You work whenever you feel like it. You work as much as you want to, but everybody who needs money works all the time on that side hustle, which technically it's a second job, because if you're working 30-40 hours a week on that second job, that's a second job, not a hustle. A hustle is sitting on a corner waiting on somebody to walk up and buy drugs off of you. That's a hustle. But showing up every day and putting in effort in order to get a consistent paycheck, that's a job. So it's not a hustle, but that's the mindset. Now the fact is that the folks, we have three things going wrong here, because the cost of living is going up. Wages are not meeting the cost of living, because they give you minimum working wages, which is half of living wage. And as living wage cost goes up, your income is not matching that. So you end up still suffering, which means that you got to go get a second job. We were talking about this earlier today with some of the guys that had came through, and I was explaining to them things like, bosses don't fire you anymore because they got to pay you unemployment to fire you. They just cut your hours till you can't afford to work there anymore. Then you just voluntarily quit so that they don't have to give you a pension. They don't have to give you any kind of severance pay. Oh, they'll let you stay if you're willing to work 1 day a week on a 2-week paycheck, where you're getting 2 days on 14-day paycheck. They had no problem with leaving you on a schedule. But if you need money, you're going to quit your job because they work you once a week now, and you can't afford that. So that's how they force you out. And I haven't found any laws against it that prevents them from doing that, because they work you when they need you. And unless you're in a union scenario where they're giving you mandatory certain quantity of hours, where you've got to mandatorily show up for that certain quantity of hours, you work when they tell you to work. Now, our always on policy was that you work when they told you to come to work. You showed up on the job, see if they had more hours for you. They would call you on your day off. You would come in. They would call you on your vacation, see if you come in. We didn't actually have vacations back in the day. Always on mentality was that we got a second check. That was our vacation pay. And then we just had more money that month. But now these days, no, they're not really trying to put all that effort in. And I agree with you, Bayside. I don't understand what that behavior is about, outside of the fact that the largest majority of individuals nowadays are still living with their parents until they're in their mid-20s. So and some longer than that, unless they get kicked out. So they're 25, 27, 29, still living with their parents, and their parents is paying all the bills. Well, if your parents are paying all the bills, you can negotiate how long you work, because you don't need the money. You're just providing a third of whatever is required, or you're bringing up the rear when somebody comes up short. So as long as you have enough money to hand over when one of your family members says, hey, pay me, then you don't really need anything else. All the rest of the money that you're getting, you're squandering away. So you don't have to work as much, because you technically don't need that money if all you want to do is just lay around and be lazy, not even really have money to go do something productive, just to say, well, I don't feel like it. And that's the mentality that kind of throws me through a loop, because I'm always on. I'm 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. I just spent all day. Today was my day off. I spent all day putting in work so that I could be ready for the rest of the week. So I don't technically have a day off until a couple of my clients call out. And then I'm like, oh, look at that. Back-to-back clients called out on the same day. Look, I got a few hours to go take an extra nap. But outside of that, no, I work. I'm always grinding. I'm always connecting with other clients in Asia and Taiwan, Tibet. I'm on this podcast 7 nights a week, and never fails. I've got other things I got to do. I'm investing. I'm looking at the share dividend distribution that's supposed to be happening between now and the 7th of April. Then I'm looking at the other 3 that I told you guys that we're going to be talking about soon, because I'm going to be investing in those, the real estate investment trust, that some of them are quarterly and some of them are monthly. And the ones that are monthly, I'm going to try to throw more down on the ones that are monthly than the ones that are quarterly, because the ones that are quarterly, I can take monthly dividends and add it to the quarterly ones, and then the quarterly ones can pay out more down the line. So working out these ways where I can make money for me. At the same time, I'm still trying to make sure that all the capital is covered, all the bills are covered, no issues. These kids ain't even worried about that because their parents is paying attention to that. Their parents pay attention to what all they need to be successful. And I'm just sitting over here jaw drop like, well, how does this work? But yet they've also got Bayside. They got some reckless demands here. Now, from what I'm understanding, these demands are a bit reasonable considering the work environment these days, but they're, like you said, they're not earning and they got bills still. But so outside of illegal activities, where are they getting money to survive? Either illegal activities or relying on a friend, family member, or an unhealthy relationship where your spouse is paying for your standard of living. That's the other way that it works out. But it's still not good for you, where you're not a self-sufficient individual, where you're assertive about your own scenario. Now, they have flexibility arrangements such as remote work or hybrid models that are increasingly essential to attract and retain Gen Z talents. So they want to work from home. They want to have a productivity thing where they can do whatever the work requirement is for the day, get it done in 2 hours, and now they got the rest of the day off, but they got paid for the whole day. Really, less work, more money. You're going to find that in health insurance companies that do that. I'm trying to think of all the other places that you can get away with that. So far off the top of my head, the health insurance places do that. Maybe real estate firms that are maintaining properties, that place might do it. I can't think of too many other places that have the type of dynamic where like they have a certain quantity of thing outside of call centers that are you're required to answer a certain number of phone calls or pitches to a certain number of clients. And then after you met your quota, that's it. Beyond that, I can't think of very many jobs that are productivity based where they have a minimum quantity of expectations for work. And once you've met that threshold, you get paid for the full day. But that's really how remote work is that there's a certain quantity of stuff that needs to be completed today. And you can either take all day doing it, or you can get it done at the beginning of your day and, just ride the clock. Where ironically, you just have to have your laptop accessible, click the button every now and again to make sure that the machine knows that you're still there. And you could be watching a game, playing Xbox. You can be hanging out with friends. As long as your remote work allows you to be wherever it is that you are with your device, because sometimes it's for the company, they'll pay you. And that's what these kids are looking for. Studies are showing that remote and hybrid work is where sometimes you work from home, or sometimes you work at the office. This reduces stressors like commuting and improving overall job satisfaction. Now, I'm not going to lie, getting pulled over on your way to work makes me not want to go to work either. But the fact is that if you never leave the house, what kind of lifestyle that you end up with? You got to find ways to get out and get you some sun. But you also bypass, when you're working from home and you're working away from the job, you also bypass working with that trifling coworker, the one that doesn't work as hard as you do. If you are the harder working one between the two, you don't have to worry about that coworker that like pisses you off because he or she is not putting in their fair share. But you guys are both getting paid the same amount, or in the worst case scenario where you're getting paid less than the other guy, and the other guy does less work than you. You don't have to experience that, because if you're working from home, it's just you in your house, in your boxers, working until you finish getting your job done. Now, the compensation has changed a lot because 70% of Gen Zers prioritize their pay and salaries as a top aspect they want from their jobs. And that's crazy because many Gen Z employees expect promotions within the first 18 months, which is reflecting their focus on rapid career advancement, even though they're garbage at their jobs. Bayside says, my wife works a hybrid. She loves it. Oh, of course. She can spend more time at home with the family. Now, I ain't trying to rock no boats, but I mean, how many times does she take a break from work and make you a sandwich? Because I know you rubbing feet and running bath water and your back hurt, let me get you an extra pillow kind of guy. So I'm just wondering, like, how often does she like take a break from work and make you a sandwich? When you at home and you working, you still got your home responsibilities to deal with. And it's the same as fellas when guys are at the house and they can step away from the computer. They have this obligation to deal with all of the stuff that's in the house because they're at the house while it's happening. You know, it's just that you those of us that are driven to get the job done, we kind of feel a little bit pressured because we want to maintain the mentality that I'm at work right now. So you don't want to have people having random conversations with you while you're at work. Or it's almost like the unprofessionalism that you feel when you call your phone company and the person that's supposed to be taking care of your concern is having a conversation with somebody in the background that's dealing with a crying baby. It's that kind of lack of professionalism. You don't want to portray that for your own personal integrity. So it's like, yeah, I'm working. So like when I get off from work, when I stop doing this, when I clock out, yeah, I'll come and take care of you. But like right now, just because I'm here, no, I can't do it. That's just some people's mentality. Others are like, oh yeah, sure. Let me just click a couple of these and I'll be right over there because, you know, they don't really care. But it's all about the image that you're trying to portray for your work ethic versus your boss's observation of your work ethic. That's also another thing. Companies are now required to balance competitive compensation packages with other benefits such as the flexible and professional development opportunities to meet Gen Z's demands. And that sucks so bad. He said, on the subject, the city of San Francisco is mayor. They're requiring to come back to work full time to support the economy that they've lost due to crime and homelessness. How do you feel? Take your ass to work. That's a short answer. That's a short answer. What I'm supposed to say? Oh, that's messed up. They shouldn't do that. No, take your ass to work. If you have a physical brick and mortar job that you're supposed to be going to, and you have been blessed since COVID to work from home, the economy is not utilizing as much resource because you're not spending gas to commute. You're not eating out for lunch. There's not money being spent. Now, what I can say is that I am not going to blame that on homelessness. I might blame some of the loss due to California's laws. It's not homelessness. Because if you remember, California had passed a law that anything under a certain quantity of money was not a felony. Like they wasn't going to like put you in jail for it. So people started going to Walmart and just shoplifting like crazy because it's like, well, they're not going to put me in jail for it. They're not going to hit me with the hammer. So I'm going to go and loot. And they're not even trying to sneak. They like blatantly looting Walmart in plain sight, like just filling up a shopping cart and walking out the front door, not even going to the cash register, because what are you going to do? Walmart's policy is that they're not supposed to try to stop you from leaving the building, but they now have armed security guards in California stopping people at the door with AR-15s and stuff to that effect to make sure that you don't steal. But that's not negative. That type of crime negatively impacts the company, which causes the company to offset those losses and raise prices in the store, which makes it more expensive for people to, $900. That ain't a lot. I thought it was higher than that. I thought it was like $1,000 or $3,000, something like that. $900 is not a lot. Like even in Florida, like 1,000 I think is a felony. $100 is a misdemeanor. So $900 is not a lot of groceries. Well, hold on. No, $900 is a lot of groceries at Walmart. So, I mean, really, if you fill one shopping cart, you probably got about $450 worth of groceries. But yeah, so what happens is that they're going to raise the price of the products to offset the loss, which is going to make it even more unaffordable for individuals to purchase, which is going to have more people walking in there stealing because, I mean, what are you going to do to me? You know? But that's not due to homelessness, maybe lack of employment, maybe too low of wages. So that might be another reason why the Gen Zers requirement for higher pay makes more sense. But it's just a wild observation that, you know, some people are complaining about the fact that they got to get off their ass and go to work. Like, go to work, make that money, man, make that money. Because if you're full time, that means you're driving to work 5 days a week. You're paying for gas. You're going to buy lunch or make lunch, which means you're spending more money on food. It's going to stimulate the economy. You got less money in your pocket because the money that you was saving staying at home, now you're going to have to burn that to get to work. I don't see how it's going to fix the economy per se, because those same people that now got to show up for work every day got less income, which means they're going to be more encouraged to go rob that Walmart. But, you know, the good paying jobs, the $250,000 a year jobs, and especially in the government, those government jobs, yeah, if they take their ass to work, oh yeah, they'll spend a bunch of money because they're not even going to eat cheap lunch. They're going to have like a $75 whatever, like 12 oysters or some shit. And then they'll go back to the house and have a nice lobster dinner or something ridiculous. Right? But the rest of us broke folks is sitting over here looking like, I work from home, but I contract overseas. Ain't nobody about to tell me you got to show up in person, because if you want me to show up in person overseas, you're going to have to pay for my plane ticket. And the plane tickets ain't cheap. But yeah, but the rest of us can't afford it. The rest of us is not going to be able to afford that. So I know there's going to be a lot of griping concerns. But how much crime, like true crime, really negatively impacted the economy? Because I mean, the only crime that I seen that really negatively impacted the economy was that $900 or less shoplifting is not a felony thing, so they can just loot anything. And if you do get caught, the worst you get is like 30 days in jail, credit for time served, probation. Cost of court is $350, $400, maybe $500 in California. But the cost of court is less than the groceries you stole. So I mean, if you successfully stole the groceries and they arrest you after the fact, at least your kids is fed while you in jail. So I mean, I still can't knock them for putting that out there like that. I would not have done that. I would have found me a second or third job so that I could pay for it. But yeah, I feel like they're not fixing the problem by making that particular demand. But I still believe that everybody should leave the house and go to work if they have a job that requires them to leave the house and go to work. I'm not going to say that people who work from home are less of a worker. I'm saying that if in the event that you have a physical entity job that you are supposed to go to, if you take your ass to work and socialize, you might get a promotion, you might get a raise, you might be there when the other person gets fired for not showing up because they're protesting the fact that they've got to be in the office, and you get their job and part of their salary, which gives you a little bit more money in your pocket. So I just say take your ass to work, because there's no reason why not. Now, great question, Bayside. Great question. I really appreciate that. I have not covered any of the fallouts in California yet since the fire. I was supposed to cover the flood. There was a tornado. They're getting their asses kicked like Sodom and Gomorrah. But with all the weather that is beating that state up, like insurance is nuts right now. And then some insurance companies don't even want to insure, but they can't cancel because California made a law that said that you can't cancel. So now they're just going to up the premium so high that the people that are still insured are going to withdraw voluntarily because they can't afford to pay for it. But there's so much stuff going on in California, natural disaster wise. I didn't even think to look at how the economy was stifled by stupidity in governmental decisions. Because had they not made that law, they would not have had so much theft. And if they would not have had so much theft because that law changes the dynamics of stealing, they would not have had so much crime, which means that they would not have a requirement to force people to go back to work. But see, when you put the crime and homelessness, people who are homeless that steal because they don't have a job, you fix that problem by giving them a place to stay and giving them a job. Then they don't have a reason to steal. But as long as homeless people are stepped over and the best that they can do is beg you for $1 to wash your windows, they're not going to do anything other than steal. So if California really wanted to do something, they would implement a program that collects all of the homeless people off of the streets and then put them into some type of homeless shelter that works them into a work release program, almost like a halfway house. And then, reestablish them back into the economy. Because there's usually 3% homeless people to the population. 10% is bad. The 3 to 5% of the population is homeless. So if you've got 4 million or 4 billion people, well, not 4 billion because we only got like 365 million in this country. But if you have like 4 million or 5 million people in California alone, or if you have like 500 million people, well, we're still at $300,000. But let's just say like 50. Let's say 50 million people in California, because I know California's got like one of the largest populations next to Texas. So let's say somewhere around 45 or 50 million. They're having about 3% would be homeless. They'd be looking at close to 150,000 homeless people. Now, if you put forth more money to provide housing for those homeless people, that would lead to employment, that would lead to them no longer having to beg for anything because they had money, then your crime problem would be resolved. And your theft problem, well, your crime and theft is the same thing, but your crime problem be resolved and your homelessness would be resolved as well. But it costs a lot of money because with the $3.5 million homes in California, it costs a lot of money to put each person into their own house, unless you buy one of them Drake houses with that $488 million house that had, I think 50 or 60 bedrooms in it. If you put a bunch of people in that, everybody get their own bedroom and y'all all go to work and pay for the same rent. I mean, you could find ways to fix the situation. You just don't, they choose not to. It's not their problem because they're not homeless. But as I've said before, all it takes is for you to miss 3 paychecks in a row and you'll be homeless right next to the homeless guy, because three missed paychecks, that is a month and a half. Your landlord is only going to allow you to be 45 days past due. 60 days past due, your landlord is filing for eviction. So you're not going to be homeless for 65 days. Oh, well, you're not going to be behind on your rent for 65 days, not without an executive order. So 65 days into not paying your rent on time, they're going to put your ass out. And we got another one. So we're going to do this one. We're going to do this one here. And ladies and gentlemen, Usman just popped in for the night. That's a shout out to Usman. Gotta show some love to everybody. Usman, he's got the best thing when he dives in.
Now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf.
I love these.
No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly.
And while we're trying to make it sense, I love this. I'm gonna have to put this up in my car.
Raising the bar, breaking ground.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Now, Usman says, President asks, Xander has solved nuclear fission and managed to keep a son in his room. The evidence is in the stream. Look at the glow. I do got a pretty beast spotlight right now. I had to adjust to this new lighting system, and I'm just like, oh yeah. This is gonna give me some contrast. It's not gonna be like straight in the face. And then it looks to me, I don't know if you guys can confirm, but it looks to me like it's actually showing high definition this time around. It doesn't even look like it's showing that 720p that it was showing before. So I'm actually enthusiastic because I'm like, wait, did the internet improve? T-Mobile just upgraded. They putting in a lot of effort to shave money off my phone bill every month. I be saving. What am I saving right now? They're taking $150 a month off my phone bill every time I call them once a month. I call them 2 or 3 times a month, and I do this on purpose. I call them so that they can notate that the system is still jacked up. They notate that I'm still having issues. They reset all of my stuff, which it just refreshes everything. They notate that. Then when it's time for me to pay the bill, I call them again and I say, hey, you guys have a history of the error that you haven't fixed yet. They confirmed that it hasn't been fixed from technical support. Now customer care side, take care of my bill. And they're like, oh, no problem. $150 off. So it's crazy. And I told you guys before, usually you can call your phone company and negotiate a difference. But I mean, my phone bill would have been $350. So for them to take $150 off the bill, that's a huge dip. But the bill is still high. But it's a commercial account, so it's supposed to be high. I got what, five or 6 cell phones, 2 internet plans, and the mobile hotspot, and this laptop, all running on this like 9 or 10 devices. So it's reasonable. It's affordable. Usman says, store assistant, how bright would you like your lights, sir? Xander, yes. It's 500K. It's like 500,000 watts. It is pretty bright in here. It is pretty bright in here. It actually, the quantity of brightness at this particular level kind of warrants the glasses because I technically can't see the screen with the glare from the lights. It's like blinding lights. Who made that song, Blinding Lights? I can't remember, but it definitely it gives a whole new dynamic. So I'm actually really enjoying this. I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to make sure that my 1080p is activated. I'm going to have to make sure that oh yeah, it is rocking high definition right now on the integrated camera. So how many lumens would you like for your bulbs? Xander, all. Oh wait, okay. So truth be told, truth. Look, in my house, I have about 55 color changing light bulbs. It is like Christmas year round. When you turn on usually I leave the lights on, but if in the event that a light goes off, if you turn on the lights, they start changing colors. It is like, it's calming, it's soothing, but it is incredible because nobody expects lights to do that for some reason, but it's cheaper than a regular light. Like these lights that are shining on me right now are brighter and well, they're not brighter. They're more expensive than per wattage than the other lights that typically would be providing alternate colors. The only difference is that because it's like red, blue, green, yellow, orange, purple, some of the colors wouldn't do well on the podcast, but it would be very interesting if I was doing a like a music theme or something like that. I could actually have like strobe lights going off in the background and rock out a really good rave scene just by using the lights in the house. 55, Xander, That's called a nightclub. Well, it's a nightclub in my house. I didn't tell you guys. And instead of wasting money on going to the club, you could do it at your house. So if I've got a karaoke machine, I got an open bar in my kitchen, and I've got color changing lights, all I got to do is invite my neighbors and charge cover. And instead of me paying a bunch of money to have a good time, I could get paid a bunch of money to allow other people to have a good time at my place. That's how you entertain yourself financially responsibly. People don't think about stuff like that. Remember back when we were in college, back when we were in high school, and you had those house parties and you had to pay cover? Back in those days, kids were smarter. We're gonna use mom's house. We're gonna use dad's house. We're gonna have a house party. We're gonna charge everybody $15 or $20 for all you can drink. Now you invite 600 people. They're gonna drink until the alcohol runs out, but $20 a person for 600 people. You made more than enough money. What's that, like almost $12,000? That should cover plenty of the alcohol that you bought. You could actually go back out and buy more alcohol to keep the party going. But the fact is that the police will shut it down at 9:30. You still get to keep the money. Your pets are dog by day and dogs by night for security. Oh yeah. They definitely. He's had at least 3 kegs. Yeah, 3 kegs and a few dozen bottles of mixed drinks. Because if you throw some like tequila, some hypnotic, and then throw some Jaeger into a thing, Jaeger's a little bit nasty. But if you're using like the tequila, the vodka, the hypnotic, and some Alizé, you can make you something fruity. Bitches like fruity, and it'll get everybody tore up inside of 2 glasses. So $20 is $10 a glass. You're definitely turning a profit. You're very rarely gonna. And then beer is like $1.50 a piece. I remember I used to go to places that had nickel beer night, where you could go in there and buy a glass of beer for a nickel. I would put $1 on the table and be like, let's make it happen. Put $1 on the table and then put $3 more up there as a tip for making all these drinks. And it was crazy. Because for $1, I ain't drinking all that. For $1, I can give everybody that is there a drink. And for the rest of the week, everybody else is buying me drinks because I got them drinks on nickel beer night. But it cost me probably $3, $4 with the tip to get everybody drinks. And now I've got free drinks for the next 7 days, which is outside of nickel beer night is not. And then I don't even drink beer. I drink gin and juice. So I'm like Snoop Dogg. And that's like a $5 or $7 a glass drink, especially if it's a double shot with slow gin. So yeah, I am not even getting into like the club scene without being fiscally responsible. It's like, oh yeah, let's go on a special day. I'm going to pay the reduced rate, get you one. You're going to compensate me on a non-reduced day. And then I still end up spending less money on my habits than everybody around me. And the truth is, especially if I come in late at the night and everybody else has run out of money and I'm sitting over here like $2 on the table, get everybody hammered up just a little bit more, I'm like their best friend now. I don't even know these people, but they're like, Blade, let's get him a drink. Get his dog a drink too. I love it. I remember those days like it was yesterday. I'm too old for that now. That's why I got Usman. That's why I got 55 light bulbs in the house. So I'm trying to turn that into a club. Now the career growth, because we're talking about the Gen Zs and why they're quitting their jobs. The career growth that Gen Zs are looking at right now, 43% of Gen Z employees would consider leaving their job if they feel stagnant in their career choice. But I mean, while continuous growth and clear career paths are critical for retaining Gen Z talent, as they value transparency and recognition, more recognition than transparency, because they want to, which is why you have all of these insignificant bullshit titles that they give you, like crew trainer, team leader, department store assistant. They come up with all kind of weird but you're never management. There's like 30 titles between the hourly wage employee and management. But if they can give you any type of insignificant title that gives you a little bit more authority over the other people who don't already have that same title, then you feel like you've done something, even if that title doesn't come with a pay raise. I've always told my employers, never, ever give me a title that doesn't have an increase in pay. But always give me an increase in pay that doesn't require an increase in title and responsibility. So they top me out as hourly. And in order for me to get more money, I have to switch over to salary. I decided to start working for myself because I can make more money by myself and I can do it with less stress. Now, many Gen Z workers are interested in creating startups or pursuing independent ventures, clearly because they don't like being told what to do. And this is further challenging the traditional corporate structure. Now, I was just talking to somebody at an AutoZone earlier today, and she was telling me about how she's got this side job where she cooks. Yeah, that's it. She cooks. Now, I'm thinking, fantastic. Why don't you have a restaurant? Oh, the market isn't good for a restaurant. Fucking me. Soul food? Are you serious? You're telling me that a undying culture of food, that you can't put a price on that and start up a restaurant, start up a food truck, start something that she's like, oh no. It 2 years ago, maybe. Well, how long have you been doing this? And I'm talking to her because she's working. She's a manager at the AutoZone. I ain't giving out no names because I don't want nobody to get in trouble, but she's a manager at the AutoZone. She got her little side hustle on the side where she get paid cash under the table for selling food in the hood. I respect that. But you telling me that you're willing to grind out and make extra money to subsidize your income from your primary job, which provides you with the rest of your income, instead of finding a way to make a cookbook, recipes, put it on a menu, teach all the cooks how to cook it, teach all the waiters how to serve it, have you a 3 to 5 man team. You don't even have to go to work anymore. They go to work for you. And all you have to do is make sure everybody gets paid. If you have 2 people there, one to do payroll and one to make sure that everybody shows up for work, you've only got to make one phone call. and then you know what's going on with your business. Hootsman says, drunkard, I'm drunk, but one drink for all my friends. Bartender, who? Drunkard, Xander, Black Lantern, Morpheus, Black Neo, and Blade. Bartender, there's only one person here. Drunkard, exactly. And you know what? The bartender might actually make 5 drinks. If not 6. Because I forgot Blade was sitting there. It's wild. It's wild. So when I was talking to her and I was trying to figure out why is she not like trying to exploit this, and then she was telling me about how she's getting it under the table, cash up front, so she ain't got to claim it on the taxes. So her LLC is just a shell corporation because she's not doing anything with it, but she's got it. And I'm like, all right, cool. I can't talk anything about it. But me, I would have been like, fuck, food truck. I would have been parking the food truck outside the courthouse during trial days. I'd have been parking because, folks is going to jail, get hungry, they get thirsty. When I was 9, I had a lemonade stand that was right outside the courthouse at the bottom of the courthouse steps. I made so much money because they don't give you much time for a recess. And when you go out and get you some fresh air, you can get you something to drink from me for 50 cents. Whereas if you'd have walked down the street and gone to the restaurant and waited in line, by the time you came back, you'd have been late for court. You going to jail. This is the last little bit of Kool-Aid lemonade flavor that you're going to get before you get out. So you're going to try to jump in on this. And I just made a bunch of money off of that. It's all about location. But she's like, oh yeah, it's not going to work. Oh, so many mom and pop shops are closing their businesses. And I'm sitting here looking at her like, what? Why? And that's one of the reasons why the Gen Zs are quitting as well. Usman says people have varying degrees of ambition and intelligence. Well, she glued her hair on her head, so I didn't give her much for her intelligence. But when it comes down to ambition, like just listening to her explain to me her lack of determination, she's considering changing jobs to find another company because the one that she's working for doesn't pay as much as she would hope. And I'm sitting over here thinking, why you got two jobs? Why don't you just focus on the one that's paying you the most? And if you're trying to transition out of the one that you're showing up to every day, why not switch over to a company or create your own company where you're making enough money to cover your own scenario? Well, a lot of people have this drive to get paid for their presence. And when they get paid for their presence, they don't necessarily have to work. All right, y'all, we got somebody new in here. Let's hit it with it. Let's hit him with it. Jesse Smith, first time tonight. He's jumping in with some comments, and he's going to be getting a lot of insight from us tonight. So everybody make sure that you give him a round of applause and utilize those reaction buttons, because Jesse Smith is going to bring some life to a lifeless situation. We got all kind of, I'm gonna have to rotate out these five. Jesse Smith says, I want to find a new job where I make more money, but I'd like to do the same type of work. Now, in order for you to find a new job, you're looking at competitors to the job that you currently have. First of all, you got to make sure that you don't have a competition clause that you signed when you got your first job. Then you got to make sure that, oh, no problem. I've been doing it for everyone lately, because I mean, we've got a whole album that was given to us from alanito.music in Switzerland, and Danny was promoting it out in Denmark, and I was like, I might as well just play all of them throughout the show so that you guys can kind of get a sample of what we got going on. The links to all of the songs are in the description down below, so you can hear the full version of the song, of any of the songs that we have. The names should be there for each one of the songs, and then if you want to purchase it for download, it's there. For the other link right below it is the link to Amazon Prime, where you could pick it up, but you could also get it from iTunes, amongst other places. Spotify, it's there as well. So just take the name of the song, type it into like Pandora, Spotify, iTunes, or something like that, and you can pull the song up, or you can just listen to it from YouTube, whichever you prefer. But he was asking about doing the same type of work. Now, what type of work do you do, Jesse? Because I could potentially, because we were supposed to be talking about, what were we supposed to be talking about coming soon? After we finished talking about we're supposed to be talking about the precious minerals. And then after that, we were supposed to be talking about side hustles, but I could always push back precious minerals and talk about some alternative ways next week, Tuesday, where I can give you a decent number of locations for your particular job choice. But if you're working off of a computer, years of experience is going to qualify you for another job. As long as you're not getting fired off of this job and you're transitioning into another job, you can utilize your favorite manager as a reference on the job, which will help you get the job better if you're leaving a job on good terms. That only applies if you're leaving a job on good terms. If you're leaving a job, you're going to tell your current employer that, something like relocation, something like a change in family atmosphere that causes you to not be accessible to the current job, but you still need a job. So that job is closer to where you're about to be, kind of situation. Make it seem like it's beyond your control, not that you hate this job because this job doesn't pay you enough, or you hate this job because this job doesn't treat you right. You don't want to do that, because if you ask them for a reference, they're going to say that they hate your work skills, don't hire you, to keep you from leaving. So you want to make sure that you do that. He says, I work in politics, mostly journalism, activism. Some of my problem is money, and some of it is just change of pace. It would be on decent terms when I leave. I would recommend, well, if you're doing journalism, I don't know why you don't have your own journal platform where you're doing this stuff on a regular basis, in addition to whatever your employer has for you. Because if you can create your own online media source, you'll build up enough followership where you'll get paid off of that instead of having to work for somebody else. Then you can cover whatever story you want to cover instead of covering the story that your editor is willing to post, which allows you to have more freedom of choice with the topics that you decide to pitch. You can also subcontract your stories to multiple media outlets instead of being exclusive to one particular place. You could provide it to the highest bidder, where if they want the story, they can have it. But if they're not willing to cover what the other place is going to cover, then you can just provide that same story to the other place. I understand that there's like rules and regulations that are involved with journalism and how you get your stories out. But if you've got a story that people are going to want to see, it doesn't matter who publishes it. It just matters that it gets published. So if you self-publish really good stories that your editor doesn't want to publish on your own private platform, and then you have that built up following where people are paying attention to what you've got to say, you can do affiliate marketing through that. You can do Google AdSense through that and make revenue off of it. There's a lot of things that you can do with that particular type of field of work. Or if you just want to get a decent check from a company that's already well established, you can just get a good story, bring it to the next person, and then offer up your services and see what they'll say. And typically, if you've got a good enough story, they're going to be like, oh yeah. Because I know that with journalists, y'all travel all over the world and get y'all story. Y'all be all up underneath the handcuffs trying to get that story. Y'all be getting shot at and blown up and everything like that, trying to get that story. So I mean, y'all be putting in work. I don't know. Like I can't put a dollar amount on the amount of effort that you guys put into getting that story. I don't like paparazzi, but I respect the fact that when you guys go out and get that story, you get that story by any means necessary. Falling out of trees, being thrown out of airplanes, falling into the lake, drowning in the rivers, y'all be getting that story, bro. So depending on where the story came from, I'm like, ooh, I bet that journalist is got PTSD now just to just to write that topic. Usman said, is it possible to work on a computer for a company which is based in a different continent? Oh, of course it is. If the company does not care about where you are stationed, then you can work from anywhere. If the company wants you to specifically work from a specific location, you buy you a VPN and make that VPN that location. That's all you got to do. Now, if your company is strict about where you are, then you're not going to be able to do that. But most of my clients are in Asia. They don't care. We just cross-check time zone differences. We're like 13 hours of time zone difference. So they're 2:00 in the afternoon. It's my midnight. And that's really the only difference, is that we just try to coordinate with the meetings and stuff. But if I can meet your meeting timelines, and I got this gigantic spotlight over here where you can't tell what time of day or time of night it is, then at the end of the day, I could be doing business with somebody in Sri Lanka and just tell them it's daytime and they'll believe me, So as long as I show up for their time slot, that's all that really matters when it comes to that, depending on the job, of course. Because if they've got like Beijing doesn't want their intellectual property in the hands of the US, so you probably would not be able to handle the TikTok platform from the US until Beijing comes off their high horse, something like that. Jesse said, the place I write for now has exclusivity on the articles I write for them. I've thought about doing a Substack. I do have one on my own that my boss wouldn't publish. Now, your exclusivity is based on the ones that you write for him. But if your boss don't want that story, that's your story. So the story doesn't get tabled just because the boss doesn't want it. So, I mean, you have to you got to understand that there are some loopholes in your contract there. Now you can't do a scoop for him and sell it to the competitor. But if you did a story, especially one that he didn't assign to you, you brought back the story. He didn't want that story. He doesn't want it. That's it. So that story can go somewhere else. But self-marketing is awkward for me. I don't think I'd like having to grow support. I probably could get a decent amount of support if I started now. I can tell you right now, in 2019, I think it was, I started doing a and I guess that's probably the fundamental core of when I kind of started doing this, because I started doing a website where I would do a different article every day. And it was all trending about fashion. And I was within a month or so with a few thousand people following my website. Now you're doing news. More people care about news than people that care about fashion. I was able to take the knowledge that I learned from the fashion platform that I was operating, and I started doing this podcast. And now I'm at like 24,500 subscribers. And, I'm averaging almost 20 or 30,000 views a month, which is, for a small podcast, it's a lot. But for me, it's not enough, because I would prefer like 1.5 million views and like 5 million subscribers, but I haven't gotten there yet. It takes time. When you're trying to build up your own image, you're trying to build your own brand, you have to be consistent. So if you're doing topics that are exclusive to the company, that's the topics that you can't give to somebody else. If you're doing your own, like you say, your own Substack, that's the stuff that you can sell to somebody else. Whether you do it for yourself or you sell it to somebody else, you can do a different topic that your boss did not ask you for, that you thought would be good, and you can bring it to somebody else. And that's a way, again, freelance. But if you're taking your Substack and you're putting that in a on a website where you're publishing your own stuff, you shouldn't be considered competing with your employer, because that's something that you're doing on the side. And you can start generating revenue off of that over time. And eventually you can just like walk away from working for somebody else and just do your own thing. Not to mention, as a journalist, you can combine the articles that you write with videos that you do when you're live on a scene recording something and stuff to that effect, which kind of gives you more of an anchorman position. And then if you have live video footage from something that you recorded from before, when you do your written article and then you're putting up your unedited video that supports your written article, they can see firsthand what you saw, what made you write that article. You're going to get more people's attention than what the news puts out, because you got to remember that every news outlet, newspaper outlet, will definitely suppress certain information. But you yourself, not required to suppress the information. Your First Amendment right to freedom of speech, you can speak on it. Your boss isn't required to pay you for it, but you can get paid from somewhere else for it. You just got to think about that part. Bayside, you just said it, Xander. Consistent, just like a hamburger from McDonald's. To the same everywhere, consistent. Yeah. Well, that is the thing. I do know that I kind of got that grimace color going on right now, equivalent to like the Hamburglar. But like, how long were those two in play before they got retired? And the only reason why Ronald McDonald got retired was because he was Pee Wee Herman with that little boy in the playpen, and that just didn't work out well. So before that, though, there was a Ronald McDonald everywhere. and yeah. But consistency is a thing. Consistency is really the best way to make yourself more successful, and that's one of the reasons why the Gen Zs are gravitating away from the structuralized format of working for somebody else, because they have great ideas. They know that their idea is great. It's just the person that they're pitching it to doesn't want to hear it. So instead, they're like, you know what, fuck this. I'll do this myself. Now, startups are hard. Startups are costly, and it takes a lot of time for you to see results. You have to be doing this for a couple years before you start seeing the fruits of your labor become beneficial. Like, I started in November of 23. We're in March of 25. And now I have a lot of conversation in my channel. Before, it was just me on the channel, actually me and somebody else on the channel. And at the end of the day, like, if we weren't talking to each other, there wasn't conversation. We would love a heckler back in those days, but it took 2 years almost of consistency in order to build that, in order to build what I have now. The image that I have now, I just remastered the podcast since August of last year. So you probably won't even see very many videos posted from before August of last year, because all of the rookie content that I had posted, I took most of that stuff down to make room for better quality content. But that still means that you can do it yourself if you want to. But if you're a journalist, depending on where you are and how much you get around, you can find a different company. I can't guarantee that they're going to pay you more, but if your reputation precedes you, when you go somewhere else, they're going to offer you a decent amount. That's what I can say. Jesse says, I'm also wanting to go to law school, kind of feeling indecisive about what to do. Law school sucks. I'm not going to tell you don't go. If you really want to go to law school, go to law school. But I can also tell you that instead of wasting a bunch of money going to law school, you could actually do your own research on legal cases and stuff to that effect. You make what, 36% off, 33% off of a lawsuit, and then you make 36 to 40% if you take it to trial. Most lawsuits settle out of court. So good news is, as a lawyer, depending on what you're going to law school for, you potentially could get a lot of money just negotiating with the other party for a reasonable settlement amount. After you've been in the field long enough, you understand what the numbers look like. You understand the position of your client and the desperation of your client, which means that the other person can offer less because your client is considered desperate, because poor people are allowing themselves to be mistreated, which is why capitalism capitalizes on the poor, on the ignorant, and usually the weak and the elderly. But the fact is that if you're desperate, you'll take less just so that you have something. But if you're not desperate, you're like, well, fuck it, we can go to trial because that's not enough. Then they'll take it to trial. So typically, though, if it's a reasonable amount of money, you typically walk away with a settlement. So if you needed a lawyer, it'd be good for you to learn the law for yourself. But if you're trying to get a career as a lawyer, by all means, do it. From a journalist to a lawyer, it's doable. You got a lot of street knowledge as far as getting evidence and information. It just depends. Are you going to be a criminal lawyer, or are you going to be a state prosecutor? Because if you're going to be a criminal lawyer, you're going to have a lot more Lincoln lawyer style stuff dealing. If you're going to be a state prosecutor, you're going to be in a situation where you're going to represent people that you don't want to represent. You're going to fold on cases that you know you can win. You're going to do as you're told for the sake of the political position of your superior, the same way the editor is telling you what stories that they're not going to publish, even though they're good stories. You're going to be in a situation where if you are not personally and then criminal attorneys work for themselves. Criminal attorneys don't work for a firm unless you are working for a criminal attorney firm. So they're self-employed. They build a business by themselves. Yeah, 33% on a lawsuit is $100 million lawsuit. Times 33% is $330,000. assuming that you're dealing with $1 million lawsuit. More often than not, you're dealing with $100,000 lawsuit or a $300,000 lawsuit, which means that you're going to have anywhere between $33,000 and $99,000 off of that lawsuit. And it usually takes up to 2 years to settle a lawsuit, 2 years and 8 months to settle a lawsuit, unless you're in car insurance, where you can wrap this bad boy up inside of 9 months, because they do 6 months of rehabilitation and then 3 months of negotiation, and then they settle. But then when they're settling on like 100,000, they're selling on like 50,000. So when you get 33% of 50,000, you're not really making that much money per client. But yeah, if you're doing when you're looking at $1 million lawsuit, you're looking at a capital offense. So because not everybody is doing $1 million lawsuits. You got small claims courts that are $15,000 or less. You have the middle circuit courts that are under $50,000 lawsuits. And then you have the Supreme Court, where anything over a certain amount, depending on what state, somewhere between more than 25, sometimes more than 75,000, that ends up in a Supreme Court. Those are the ones that are going to be like, oh, $1 million, 100 million, stuff like that. But that's big business. You don't get that out the gate fresh out of law school. You get that after you've won a few dozen cases and nobody could stop you. That's when you start getting those high profile cases. But a lot of the times you have, depending on what kind of lawyer you're trying to be when you go to law school, you're not even dealing with lawsuits. You're dealing with civil action per se, but one person is suing another person for freedom, for constitutional rights, non-monetary gains. You know, they're suing you to unlock the school or some stupid shit like that. They're suing you so that they can change their gender or something like that, which is lawsuits that lawyers take up. But they're not going to get paid 33% of $1 million because the lawsuit doesn't pertain monetary injunctive relief. And because it doesn't have monetary injunctive relief, you're looking at a different form of relief that is not, it's not the same pay scale. Like, there are lawyers that have 200 or 300 clients a year or more at a time, and they're averaging like 60,000 a year for lawyers. So depending on where you go, you might not get a lot of money as a lawyer, but you will have $250,000 student loan debt from being a lawyer. And after Donald Trump just shut down everything after the bachelor's degree, in order for you to be a higher paid lawyer with a master's degree, you're looking at, getting a student loan from an SBA place to pay for your student loan so that you can get your master's or your JD, so that you can go to law school. I mean, come out of law school and be like that top tier Johnny Cochran style lawyer. But all you got to do is know how to argue and know what laws pertain to the case to be a lawyer. Well, to represent yourself. Now, to be a lawyer, you got to pass the bar in whatever state that you're going to do law in. That's a little bit different. Now, I think with private attorneys, you can get a private attorney in one state that can represent you in another state. But as far as like state-funded attorneys, like, yeah, you can only do business in the state that you passed the bar in. So that's a whole nother scenario. Jesse said, I did a semester of law school already. I'm definitely wanting to practice law. I think I'm most interested in being a judge, which takes political connections. Yep, you got to help somebody's kid get out of trouble and then have them recommend you. And then during the next election in 2 years, you can get in there as a judge. Or if it's going to take you 2 years to finish getting your JD, because that's what I was telling you about, getting your JD, judicial doctrine, then you can go in a campaign for a judge, because judges are different from lawyers. Lawyers are hired. Judges are voted in. So you have to be popular. Or like the women that got voted in as judges during the movement, when the American was like, oh yeah, we need to have women judges, and just voted for everybody that's female on principle, because Americans don't really vote based on knowledge and like historical like relevance. We do emotional voting, and since we do emotional voting, we'll vote for somebody because we like that person. It's a popularity contest. We vote for we like their political platform. Well, not even their platform, their agenda, Like if it's a Republican party, like, oh yeah, I'm Republican, I'll vote for you because I'm Republican. Or, oh, I want to see a woman president, so I'll vote for her because I want to see, or I'm gonna vote for him because I want to see a black president, something like that. But you're not seeing like, oh, that person has really good policies that'll benefit my life, I'm gonna vote for him. Now, on a judge level, nobody knows who the judges are. You're just on the ballot. You are a name on the ballot that nobody recognizes, ironically, out of a bunch of names on the ballot. And they'll ask you to select a certain number of names off of the ballot. That's it. And nobody really knows who they're selecting. They just select at random, right? But yeah, you could become a judge that way. There are some judges that run commercials. That way their name is out there so that when you go to pick, oh, I know so-and-so, I've seen that name before. But if you've never been a judge before, they're not voting for you because you're good at what you do. They're voting for you because you're new. They're voting for you because you're a guy. They're voting for you because you're handsome. They're voting for you because you're young. They're voting for you because you're different in comparison to the other judges that have been seen on a bench. They're not voting for you because you're qualified or you're skilled. They're just voting for you because you're different. Because they don't know anything about the judges until the judge rules on their case. Then they're not too happy about the judge if the judge doesn't rule in their favor. It's crazy. It's a bit, and that's one of those jobs where there are no promotions there. I can't say there are no raises, but there are definitely no promotions there. There's no moving up in the company. You just stay a judge until you're retired from being a judge. And whatever salary they're giving you, that's pretty much what you're getting. You might be able to negotiate something different, but unless you decide to walk away from being a judge and start being a governor or some shit like that, you're not going to see a change in job position. So I tell people who get that, I think it's funny. We call fast food restaurants dead-end jobs, but there's a tier system. You can be a shift manager, store manager, general manager, regional manager, area manager. Like you can get promoted up to you go into like a nurse. There's no promotion for a nurse. There's no promotion for a doctor or a lawyer. Truth be told, the definition of a dead-end job is once you get in there, like that's it. It doesn't go anywhere else. And ironically, like we misuse the term dead-end job, but a job that does not have any type of elevation in it, like that's it. You've plateaued right there. That's technically a dead-end job. Now, if we like what we're doing, then I mean that's why we stick to it. But yeah, that's crap. Now, Jesse says most judges are appointed. The elections of judges are like 90% uncontested and 95% wins for the incumbent. Now, I'm going to tell you, like, well, we don't vote. So they're not necessarily appointed. All it takes is for like 10 or 15 people to vote, and the rest of the population doesn't vote. And because of that, the person with the highest number of votes wins. So since we're supposed to vote every year for something, and it's off-centered, where every other year we're voting for a judge in a regular courts. Every other year after that, we're voting for the judges in Supreme Courts. Every 4 years, we're voting for president. Every 2 years, we're voting for a congressman. Every 2 years, we're voting for disciplinary board for the schools. Every 2 years, we're voting for the committee for the city and the state and the county, the sheriff, the chief of police, every 2 years. So every year there's something to vote for, but we only vote once every 4 years. So they don't necessarily get appointed. It's just that the handful of people that care about their homie getting selected will go and vote for him. And that's why that person gets selected, because it's not like anybody's going to stop them. If they need 26 judges and you have 29, the first 26 with the highest votes get it. But if you have 26 judges, you need 26 judges. There really isn't much left to do. All 26 if you got a job. Now we're going to give it to the new guy. The new guy just showed up. We're going to give the new guy this one. First time tonight, AJ Kelsey comes in. He's saying that judges ain't shit because judges get off on power. I'm gonna dive in on that. We're rocking out to Jesse. KJ Kelsey. Special shout out to KJ Kelsey. Everybody gets an intro today. So Kelsey, he said judges get off on power. And I'm going to be honest with you, judges forget their place. But those of us who don't know the rights and responsibilities of the judges versus our rights and responsibilities under the authority of the judges puts us in a compromising position. A judge will get away with doing something that he or she is not supposed to do under the guise of immunity because we do not know that we can contest that decision. That's why we go get lawyers. Because if we had a lawyer that was good, then that lawyer would see what's not going right, and that lawyer would challenge the judge because the judge knows that he or she cannot do that. But if nobody says anything, I mean, you can break the law if nobody rats you out. But if somebody rats you out, you can't break the law. KJ said, ouch, I like jazz music. Well, we've got 5 of them up here. There's some indie in here. There's a little bit of metal. There's a little bit of heavy metal. These were made for us from alanito.music in Switzerland. So, I just kind of put them up there as you guys come through so that y'all can kind of get a taste of them. There are some that are a little less aggressive as that one. That one is probably the most aggressive one. He said, okay. But if somebody else pops in with a comment, you'll be able to hear the other one. I'll throw non-negotiables up there next. Jesse says, so do judges, prosecutors, and defense attorneys all have a proper role? Some with cops, I used to hate prosecutors, but I understand the perspective now. All roles need fair-minded thinking. Well, the judge is supposed to be the middle ground. The public defender or defense attorney is supposed to be for the criminal or the alleged criminal. Prosecutors are supposed to be on the same side as the police. However, there are some prosecutors that get used to the lack of justice in the system and starts manipulating the system in ways to get what they believe to be justice based on the information that they got from the police officer, because the prosecutor never talks to the criminals in America. The prosecutors will only negotiate a plea deal with the alleged criminals. The police officers build the story and make the claim. Now, those of us that have watched social media lately and has seen how police officers behave corruptly by mistreating civilians on the street and then making a false report to their commanding officer while wearing a body camera, we understand that the police officers can make errors in their judgment. They're not corrupt cops, but they do definitely cover their mistakes by making a blatant quantity of lies that negatively impacts the citizen that they're engaging. That compromises the legal system, because while we're supposed to be able to trust the judgment of law enforcement, we lose faith in the legal system because the officer is lying. They're not doing a thorough investigation. The prosecutor's not going to do a thorough investigation. They're just going to take the information they got from the police report and use that as evidence in the case. The judge is tired of hearing these cases, and the judge is just going to drop the hammer and start offering sentences to everybody and not actually work through until that one scenario where the person on the defense side of the room is lost, confused, doesn't know why they're standing there, and can only tell the judge, I saw everything that happened, but I'm a witness, not a suspect. And that's when the judge has to stop and think, well, hold on, how do I address this? Because everybody is supposed to give me a guilty or not guilty plea, regardless of what's going on. But once that person stops and says, I don't know how to plead because I'm a witness. Take notes, y'all. I'm a witness. I saw what happened, but I'm a witness. So witnesses aren't supposed to plea. The suspect is supposed to plea. I'm a witness, Never say I did or didn't do anything, because that constitutes a guilty or not guilty plea. I'm a witness. Once they get hit with one of those, they're like, oh. And sometimes that case gets thrown clean out, unless it's like a drastic serial killer kind of situation. But like a regular traffic stop or a battery arrest or something simple, the judge might throw that case out, because like, what just happened here? And then God forbid the officer didn't do it correctly, and you're sitting there with a person who doesn't know what they're arrested for. This is the first time that they're hearing about it. They just got beat up, thrown in the back of the car. They went to the hospital. They just got out of the hospital. They're wearing the same clothes now that they were wearing when they got off from work, because they got arrested leaving their job because they were going home. That kind of situation, the judge would be like, oh, this is a weird case too. And you're starting to see more and more that the police officers are being told by the judges that the judge is disappointed in the police. But that's one of the reasons why I asked you, what kind of lawyer are you trying to be? Because if you're doing a lawsuit attorney like Usman was talking about, yeah, you can make a ton of money in there. But if you start becoming a criminal defense attorney, you might have to protect somebody who actually did it. If you're a prosecutor, you might have to prosecute somebody who actually didn't do it. And you have to be okay with that on both sides of the fence. That's why I said being a lawyer sucks. Not because the job sucks. It's because what the job entails sucks. Because there's going to be a large quantity of people who should be in prison that won't go to prison because you represented them if you're a defense attorney. And there's a lot of people that shouldn't go to prison that you're forcing into a plea deal where now they're on probation and all this other stuff for a crime that they should not have been accused of, but because they didn't have adequate representation, and you're trying to keep your reputation as a lawyer, because all lawyers have the same goal to keep a high success rate. So that kind of throws you through a loop there. KJ's got another one. Here's one. Why are you declared not guilty instead of innocent? Well, there's no such thing as innocent in America. You did something. It's just whether or not they can prove what you did. You did something. It's sad, because we're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. But when you're truly innocent, the case is null prost. They don't even prosecute it because you're innocent. You didn't do anything. But they're never going to give you a innocent verdict. They're going to get you a not guilty verdict because they could not prove that you were guilty. That doesn't mean that you're not guilty, because the accusation is led to the arrest, and the arrest is on your background check. When they start doing background checks for you, they're looking up your arrest record. How many times have you been arrested? How many times have you been in court? So they're looking for your arrest record and your court history. So if you've got criminal cases in the legal system, they find those. And if you've been arrested for something, they find those. And any charges that you have that didn't go to trial, that are still pending, are considered active, which will negatively impact you when you're trying to apply for certain jobs or certain housing and stuff to that effect. Which means that if in the event that you're in a situation that you should not have been in and the charges got dropped, you have to proactively go to the state prosecutor and request that they remove those charges off of your record. You may even have to file a petition with the court to request that they remove all charges off of your record that was not a conviction. Otherwise, it'll stay there. Now, luckily, housing is, I do believe, 3 years for a misdemeanor, 5 years for a felony. That's how far back they go. And depending on what it is, unless it's theft or fraud, then they really just don't want to do any business with you at all. But that's one of the issues. So you got to proactively, if you don't want to waste time on a lawyer, you got to proactively do your research and find ways to expunge your record, or not expunge your record, just like remove stuff off of your record that you're not responsible for, so that you have a cleaner record. The same way you have to proactively dispute charges on your credit report. That's kind of how that works. Jesse says there is prosecutorial discretion and less leeway for defense attorneys Well, prosecutorial discretion, I mean, just because they have more room to push the envelope to, because you don't need beyond a shadow of a doubt. A lot of the times you just need reasonable doubt. And if you have reasonable doubt, some people can walk. But if you have beyond a shadow of a doubt for a prosecution, some people can get convicted. And that's one of the things KJ said about what I said earlier. That's wrong. I mean, that's the way the system operates. But yeah, they do the things that a defense attorney can do is not, it's borderline illegal. The things that a prosecutor should be doing should be like pushing evidence in that probably wasn't acquired on a legal basis, which is different. And that's probably why defense attorneys have less leeway. But at the same time, your conscience, whether or not the legal system is in favor of prosecutors or defense attorneys, your conscience for the clients that you represent is going to be what weighs on you. A young man going to jail on a false accusation versus a serial killer getting off because a police officer moved the evidence. That's the difference between the two. Your conscience is that if you're putting away somebody that you don't believe should go to jail, you have to live with that. The same way, if you're paid a ton of money to help somebody get off of a charge, and then come to find out that that guy he should be getting the death penalty, you have to live with that decision. And that's why I said it sucks being a lawyer, unless it's an insurance lawyer. Because those lawyers, like, they don't really have to do anything other than negotiate with the insurance company. But when you're dealing with like criminal law, you're going to end up with a case where somebody's going to be misrepresented or the system is going to be manipulated, and you're not going to like the results. But you've got to make your peace with it and keep going. Jesse goes on to say, an interesting idea I've had for a while: an elected defense attorney for states like attorney general is elected. That is an interesting idea. I'm not sure how you would do something like that, though, because the attorney general is elected because the attorney general voluntarily represents people on behalf of the state. Defense attorneys, public defenders, represent the people, but public defenders are typically interns. They're just starting their career, or their career is tanking. They're getting a bunch of cases from the judge until they build their reputation up to start doing private practice. You'll notice that public defenders don't stay public defenders very long. Probably the first year to 2 years in the case, and then after that, they start doing their own thing. And public defenders may steer away from defense attorney stuff and start doing like prosecution stuff or like insurance law or family law. But those that stay in the biz, they stop being public defenders and start being private attorneys and start charging a lot of money. Because if I've got to get you off of something that you did, you're going to have to pay me a lot of money to cover this up for you. And that's one of the reasons why state prosecutors will have more leeway. KJ says a constitutional republic is not perfect. I got to agree with you, KJ. First of all, the Constitution wasn't made for most of us, because most of us were considered tools when the Constitution was made with the 13 colonies. So regardless of whether or not it's a republic or a democracy, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where it is discretionary, and that discretion is based on human error and manipulation based off of greed, because individuals can be bought depending on their situation. They can be bribed. They're not supposed to be, but they can. And as a result, there are some that can do what they got to do and stay on the moral track, and they got some that'll take a large chunk of change to make change in their life, and they will start making unethical decisions. They'll get used to making those unethical decisions, and if nobody blows the whistle on them before they retire, this is just a very difficult system that the citizens like us have to suffer through, which is why you've got to know more about the law than the lawyers do, at least with respects to what you are trying to accomplish in life, because otherwise they will railroad you in a situation that they're not supposed to railroad you in. KJ says, got to pay for that law degree, right? That's exactly why the defense attorneys take that big cash to pay for the law degree, the big house, to all the stuff your girlfriend wants, all the stuff your wife wants that your girlfriend didn't want. And that's what the big checks are for. Greed. But we also have to understand that one of the things, I'm glad you mentioned that, one of the things we're going to be talking about later today on the show was about how the degrees are not matching up with the skill set. Now, we were starting earlier, we were talking about why the Gen Zs are quitting the workforce. And hold on a second before I get on that. Jesse says, DC public defenders make bank. Well, that's because they're in DC. A lot of people in Washington, DC are making $250,000 a year. And a lot of the ones that are in Congress are making $250,000 a year to work less than 6 months out of the year, where they have nothing to do for the other 6 months out of the year. So you notice every year the government is going to collapse. And every year everything works itself out because they have a deadline. And if they don't meet that deadline, then all the money stops moving for a brief period of time. And the fact is that these guys got like 3 to 6 months worth of work where they decide on what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. And then the rest of the time, they don't do nothing. They're golfing, they're hanging out, yacht parties, trophy wives are expensive. They are very expensive. That's one of the reasons why I'm telling you guys that in order to make yourself, in order for you to have a successful life, you have to stop chasing the trophy wife, find value in her that is outside of her just looking attractive. She's got to be useful. Then you have to find one that's willing to invest in your agenda, because you guys can make yourselves millionaires if two of y'all are working together. Y'all can make yourselves millionaires, and with 15 to 20% interest, you'll be looking at anywhere between $150,000 to $200,000 a year as dividend returns on your investments if you invested all of your money instead of buying a bunch of random bullshit for your trophy wife. Jesse says not necessarily a bank, but it's definitely way higher than most public defenders. That's because most public defenders are getting $700 a year for their client, which means that in order for them to have a $60,000 a year income, they're going to need 200 or 300 clients, which is one of the reasons why your attorney is overworked, which is one of the reasons why your attorney cannot provide you with the representation that you need, which is why you have to help your attorney by representing yourself as co-counsel. So you have to do the research on your case and provide your attorney with all of the necessary information that you want your attorney to utilize in representing you. If you have a good attorney, your attorney will represent you the way you want to be represented. If you don't have a good attorney, they're going to tell you no, they're going to represent you however they feel like representing you, and you get railroaded out of your case. Because there is a system where certain things are supposed to happen, then this is the guaranteed outcome. That's it. Once you get put into that wheelhouse of certain things that are supposed to happen, that guaranteed outcome is going to be the same thing for each person. Now, your case is different from everybody else's case, but the problem is that you're not going to be able to push the difference unless your lawyer is willing to take you out of that wheelhouse and start motivating the court system to look at your case under a different light. So you might need to remove your attorney and then do the case yourself. But in those situations, you've got to do your research and know the law. So is it better to be a defense attorney? or prosecutor. I would take crashes before before I do either one. But everybody needs an attorney sometime in their life. I'm not going to say that attorneys aren't valuable. I'm just going to say that there's a lot of stuff that you could have done on your own if you'd put forth the effort. Now, if your life isn't suitable to do it on your own and you got the money to do it, pay for an attorney. But if you ain't got the cash, you need to know more about the law. Let's tiptoe into some of these other things here now. 38% of Gen Z workers seek employers who promote inclusivity and diversity. So they're trying to, the employers are trying to support psychological well-being and foster a positive work environment, which is more likely to retain those Gen Z workers that continue to drop like flies when it comes down to quitting in the workforce. Gen Z values collaboration with like-minded individuals, but is less inclined to engage in traditional workplace social events, which means nobody's going to the Christmas party, but everybody will shoot the breeze on the clock instead of getting their work done. The impacts on the workforce is that 20% of Americans intend to resign from jobs in 2025. That is not part of the buyout that the government is doing, because note your mail is going to start slowing down because they did a cut for the U.S. Postal Service as well. So there's a lot of people that are being forced into retirement where they've got like until September worth of pension, and then after that they got to find them another job. And this is terrible because millennials and Gen Zs are leading the movement. So while you guys are 20 years, 30 years in your careers quitting jobs, these kids just started working this job within the last 5 years and they're quitting already. 93% of employees are either searching for new positions or planning to do so in the coming year. And as we're talking about today, Jesse, you got a good job, you're not satisfied with it, and you're looking to make that change. It's a common thing right now. Google searches for how to quit a job have increased by 381% over the past month. People are Google. This is how desperate the next generation is. They are Googling how to quit a job, meaning they want to know the right ways to tell their boss to shove it so that it doesn't bite them in the rear when they move on to another company. And that is wild, because the Gen Z workplace expectations is going to put the purpose and identity as the first thing that anybody pays attention to, with 97% of Gen Zs stating that working is part of their identity. So they're going to want to make sure that the job that they're doing is in line with their personal image. So they're not going to take any kind of job. Oh, I appreciate it. He said, I got to dip. Good show, Xander. Thanks for your ideas. Anytime, Jesse. I'll see you tomorrow. We got a lot of other stuff that we're going to be covering 7 nights a week. We started around 10 o'clock Central Standard Time, which is 11 Eastern and 7 California time. So definitely stop by tomorrow if you got some time. And we're probably going to run this for like another hour, maybe, depending on how much information I got. I think I got about 30 minutes more worth of information I want to give to you guys. And then, I'll be wrapping up the show anyway. So I appreciate you stopping by. Thank you very much. So the job hopping, 83% of Gen Zs are self-proclaimed job hoppers pursuing diversified skill sets and fresh challenges, because they're short attention span from TikTok. They're not trying to stay anywhere for very long. Now, their personal development is another key factor, where 35% of Gen Zs are motivated by personal development in the work field, which is why the employers have to give them little promotional raises where it's bullshit ass job titles that doesn't do anything but give them more responsibility. It doesn't give them more pay, but they feel fulfilled that they have changed the label on their name tag. Small accomplishments are still accomplishments. Side quests that have nothing to do with the primary quest, but trying to finish 100% of this thing, right? Now, employers that are responding to the ability to retain Gen Z talent, is going to start adopting offering the flexibility in the work, where their options are going to include that remote work, hybrid models, and flexible hours that we talked about before, as 87% of Gen Zs believe the benefit of working from home will outweigh being on site. They're providing competitive compensation along with opportunities for professional development, as 80% of Gen Z employees expect this from their employers, and addressing workplace culture issues, fostering an inclusive workplace culture that prioritizes mental health. This is probably going to be leaning towards a lot of the, how do I put this, laws that Trump and Georgia and Texas have put into place to undo this inclusiveness. But they're definitely fostering more inclusiveness. And they're going to be working on the employees' well-being, where the toxic work environments are leading to the cause of turnovers among this demographic. Gen Z jobs are driven by the combination of factors that is encouraging everybody to quit, including that work-life balance, flexibility, and compensation in the career growth, as well as their workplace culture. So employers who fail to adapt to these changes and expectations may face significant challenges in attracting and retaining Gen Z talent in the coming years. Gen Zs is facing significant challenges in finding, maintaining, and enjoying their employment in 2025, with several contributing factors to their struggles that is actually nothing to do with their demands. Gen Zs has entered the workforce during the period of economic volatility, making job security a major concern. Many Gen Z graduates find their college degrees don't translate well to skill-based jobs that employers are seeking, which I thought was hilarious, because we were talking about this earlier. About half of workers with a bachelor's degree are underemployed within a year of graduating, working jobs that don't fully utilize their degrees. High cost of living, especially in urban centers, create financially burdened Gen Zs seeking jobs in a desperate fashion, where they end up taking anything so that they're not unemployed, to the magnitude of an OnlyFans account. A study found that 75% of companies are having issues with recent college graduates, citing a lack of motivation, initiative, and professionalism. So, if you're not quitting before you get fired, you're about to get fired. Gen Z employees are reported to have poor organizational and communication skills and difficulty working as a team, which is one of the reasons why they want to do remote work, because they don't want to work with anybody else. Their communication skills are bad with all of this text jargon, where they're using a series of misused characters to formulate an entire phrase, like anagrams. I don't understand why they're trying to utilize the English language in this fashion, but they're trying to stay hip and stay cool, and throw so many different, you've got to decipher it like a riddle in order to understand what the text is about. But if you get good at it, we used to do it like that back in the day, because we were paying 10 cents a message, and instead of sending 32 messages, you sent one message with everything they need to know, and pay that 10 cents instead of spending 68 cents a minute, where you're charged for the first minute just to place the call, and you're charged for the second minute when you're talking to them for the first 60 seconds of the call, where you basically paid $1.50 to talk to this person. You could send them a 10-cent text message. That's where the original jargon was supposed to be, but now the kids are doing it to be cool. I don't get it. The ongoing youth mental health crisis acts as a barrier to income and wealth, creation for Gen Zs, where 71% of Gen Z applicants reported encountering ghost jobs in their job search, while 82% spotted scams, adding to their frustrations. Some experts argue that universities are failing to prepare students for the current job market, with some degrees being described as worthless, which creates a mismatch between education and job market, which is one of the reasons why when I got my student loans deferred indefinitely, I wasn't going to call them back. I have a $0 payment every year, every month. My student loans stay in good standings. So I the only thing I can do is either pay them for a massive tax write-off or offset the debt by building a substantially large quantity of credit. It also helps my my credit score, because my credit history goes as far back as when I started college, and I got like 26 accounts in good standing. So I mean, that's a boost. Now, there's a growing emphasis on skill-based hiring over educational credentials, which can disadvantage recent graduates. Because, I mean, I keep telling y'all that book smarts is not the same as street smarts. Ladies, y'all need to listen to this. You can have 3 degrees and some prestigiously titled degrees, but if you cannot follow my instructions, you are not useful to me. If I was your employer, you could have 3 degrees and I will hire the little girl that does what I say, because when I give out an instruction, that's what I'm paying you for. She will follow the instruction. Now, in a relationship, you have less respect for the man in a relationship than what you do with the man on the job. So the man in a relationship must submit to you, so you're not willing to follow the instructions. And that's why I say, if she's not willing to follow instructions, she's not getting financial relief. So if the women are going to be dating men that are going to be paying for their standard of living, those women need to follow instructions. It doesn't matter how much your degree is. It doesn't matter what job you choose, because your personal wealth that you're going to spend on yourself, not your husband, and your level of education that does nothing for application is not going to benefit your relationship if you do not know something that will fix your relationship. So if you get a degree in business and finance and you utilize that to balance the budget for your husband, that's useful. If you get a degree in nursing and you won't even take care of your boyfriend when he's sick, you're not useful. This is just the way it is. That's just the way it is, because men are responsible for getting shot for their woman and paying all of her bills. If the woman wants to get shot by herself and pay for her own bills, the man has no other value in a relationship beyond sex. There is nothing else a man can do. Once you take away his duty to protect and provide, he is, in every sense of the word, useless in that relationship. And a man that you don't value, you will not respect. And a man that you don't respect, you will mistreat. And a man that you will mistreat, you will cheat on. So why get involved in a relationship if you're not going to respect your man and follow instructions? That's my question for the day for the ladies. Now, Gen Zs may lack access to mentors and professional networks, which is why we have this podcast here, especially with the rise of the remote work. Nobody can teach you how to do the job because nobody's coming to your house to show you how to get this done. You got to figure it out or use ChatGPT or Perplexity. I would recommend you use Perplexity. It's a more effective search engine. Now, about a quarter of young people are now considered NEETs, which are not in education, employment, or training. Now, this was a term that has trended from Asia. NEETs are basically shut-ins that sit at the house and play video games all day. I don't know how their standard of living is compensated for, but they don't have to work. They don't have to do anything other than sit on a video game. And that's the person with like the level 500 that's trolling all of the level 20s and trying to pretend like he's God on the game because he lives on that game, literally, never showering, rarely ever eating, and never leaving the house. There's over 4.3 million young people in the U.S. falling into this category. And the rising NEET numbers are now being identified as the NEET phenomenon. It's crazy. So these kids that are on GTA 5 mods, like living the whole life, like they're hanging out at the gas station with their modded out cars, and they're playing tag with the vehicles and stuff like that. Like they're literally all day, all night on the video game. It is crazy. I'm not gonna lie, GTA 6 comes out, I am definitely gonna buy me a PS5, and I am definitely gonna get on the console. But from what I hear, they're supposed to be delaying GTA 6 for PC players. They will be releasing it for console players, but they're locking the console to 30 frames per second, and people are complaining about that. Bro, I grew up with regular Nintendo, just outside of the generation of Atari. I do not care about 30 frames per second. They can lock that bitch at 30, 35, 40. I was there when PlayStation was in generation 1. You understand? When Sega Genesis became PlayStation. If you look at the history of that, because it went from the Sega Genesis to connecting your Sega Genesis to this other thing, and then it became a PlayStation. So, yeah, let's dial it all the way back to that. And then say, oh, but it's 30 frames per second now. Sweet. I just want to run through the storyline one time. Try to beat like 60% of the primary side missions and the main mission and see what the storyline looks like. You know, I don't even see, and with how much I work, I don't see myself doing online gameplay, because I would be level 1 today. I'd be level 2 next month. I'd be level 3 2 months from now. Unless I get a really good day off to level up my character, I can't see myself getting a level 20 inside of 6 months. So I'm going to be getting trolled by everybody. So no, I'm not gonna, unless I can find a way to make a bunch of money. That way I can pay people to do stuff for me so that I don't have to do anything. But guess what? That's being a businessman on a video game when I should just be a businessman in real life. Now, some Gen Z individuals are becoming discouraged and dropping out of the workforce before they even began. To address these challenges, experts suggest that employers and educational institutions need to adapt by offering more tailored benefits, leveraging digital platforms for engagement, providing clear career paths, and fostering a supportive culture that values work-life balance and mental health support. So what they're going to do is have you spend more time learning by playing video games, and then they're going to inspire you to take your ass to work because you're only going to work for 4 hours at a time. I don't know how they're going to manage to do that when the standard of living requires you to work 10 hours at a time for minimum wage. But I mean, if they're paying you $55 an hour and you're only working 4 hours, I mean, that'll work. But truth, most of these companies are going to start trading y'all out for AI, because AI will work 24 hours a day and not complain. And because they're AI, they do not require vacation pay or holiday pay, time and a half for overtime. You can just work. Additionally, there's a call for better bridges between industries and education systems, more accessible entry points like apprenticeships, and improved career guidance to help Gen Zs navigate the evolving job market. Ah, that's my guy. I told y'all I was going to get... He is really good at chess. I got to take my move today. I've been doing so much stuff since yesterday. I'm waiting to see him kick my behind on here, because he has made me do some moves, and I'm just looking. I'm like, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but Ruderus. We're giving everybody a theme song. We're running through all of the songs on the This and That track. And I actually like the way this one kicks in for you, because it definitely gets you. You got to sing it. Non-negotiables. Yeah, do the air guitar, right? Oh, you beat me? Oh, hold on. He said the game is over. Did you checkmate me? Because I know it hasn't been 3 days. I just made a move the other day. It's supposed to be 3 days per turn, and I just made a move the other day. Did you checkmate me? I got to go back and see it then. Because the last time I made a move was like last night, and I was like, yeah, I got it. You lost on time. Couldn't have. I'll double check it and see, because you had moved your player and then I moved my player, and that was just yesterday. Because you had moved, I think you moved your bishop and then I moved my pawn, and then like it. So when I moved my pawn to the right, I had moved that one up. That was the last move that I made yesterday. And it's 3-day turns. So I would have to have not taken a turn in 72 hours for me to lose on time. So let me double check that. And if the game is still rocking, and I'm going to give you another turn today, because I know I haven't done anything since yesterday, but I have been using that predictive move thing. So I would put up some moves, and then I come back and I check at least once a day or every other day to see what's going on. Typically once a day. But I can't say that 3 days have passed since the last time I've made a turn. I can't say that. But I'll double check, though. If it has, you won, and I'm going to challenge you again. But if it hasn't, I'm going to be throwing down another turn. Yeah, it was a drawish position when you time comes to 0. What? Like I said, I'm going to double check, because I was expecting to catch you on the other side, and I don't think I did. I was waiting on you to make a turn. So I double. Matter of fact, let me double check it right now, because I know that I was following this on a regular basis. What? Yeah, you're right. It definitely timed out. It didn't. I missed a turn. Well, my bad, buddy. You got the V on me. I was about to smack you down anyway. I probably could have lost, because I know you're really good at this. But I did send you another one. I had a lot of things that happened yesterday, so yeah. It looked like it was getting good, though. I thought it was going to go down to the wire. So I sent you a rematch, and that's one of the reasons why I did 3 days. I probably should have did 5. That way I would have been able to come back and get that turn in. Because I don't like losing, and I don't throw games. That's one thing I don't do. If I feel like I'm going to lose, I'm going to go ahead and lose. I'm not going to let the thing deliberately time out. I literally had, man, I had, what was it? I had to go up and down 3 flights of stairs for 5 hours today. I had to go up and down 2 flights of stairs for 3 hours yesterday. It was a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff I've been doing. So I clearly, my mistake, I slipped on that one, but I am not slipping on the next one. I'm going to have to make it a point to check it twice a day to make sure that I checked it at least once. One of the other things we have is that Gen Z's job dissatisfaction is a major reason for the trend of Gen Z's quitting their jobs, with many feeling that their current role doesn't align with their values or their passions. And that's what I was telling Jesse earlier. He said he wanted to be an attorney. And I'm like, well, depends on what kind of attorney you're going to be, because you might not like your job once you start representing clients that go against your ethics. There's also Gen Zs that are seeking better work-life balances, recognizing that the life is about more than just a 9-to-5 job. Right, because you also have that 5 to 9 job, because somebody's got to work the graveyard shift. Or, well, no, not 5 to 9. It would be probably like 9 p.m. to like 7 in the morning kind of thing, because somebody's got to work the actual graveyard shift. 5 to 9 is a swing shift between the morning crew and the night crew. Now, another key factor is their desire for meaningful work, which means that they have to find value in their jobs. Like, it has to make a difference, wanting to make positive impact on the world, because apparently the world sucks. But just like the little boy with the starfish on the beach, where you take one starfish and throw it in the water, you take another starfish and throw it in the water, you're not going to save all of the starfish that are on the beach. But the individual starfish that you did throw back, that's the one that you save. So you need to change your mentality from trying to change the world and start focusing on trying to first change your neighborhood, change your social group, change your network, and then expand outward, because you can't go from being selfish to changing the world with selfless desire, because that selfless desire is driven by selfish means, because you want to have the clout and credibility to say, I've changed the world. That's the ridiculousness of that. Now, financial instability is also playing a significant role, as Gen Zs face unprecedented debt and financial uncertainty. The job dissatisfaction is a complex issue, with the Gen Zs craving autonomy, creativity, and opportunities for growth, but they're looking for work environments that foster innovation, inclusivity, and social responsibility. So the search for meaning is deeply personal, with Gen Zs wanting to make a difference in their communities and the world at large. But Gen Zs is also reevaluating the concept of work at all, questioning whether traditional employment is the only path to success, which it is not. As they delve deeper into their careers, Gen Zs is discovering that their values and expectations differ significantly from previous generations, and they're prioritizing flexibility, well-being, and purpose over traditional notions of career advancement. So data shows that Gen Z is more likely to switch jobs frequently, seeking new challenges and experiences that align with their evolving goals. As their passions change, so do their jobs. This shift is forcing employers to rethink their strategies, adapting to the changing needs and desires of this dynamic workforce, because since everyone's doing it, they can't put their foot down and refuse to shift. Gen Z's pursuit of meaningful work is revealing some surprising insight, challenging long-held assumptions about what drives success and fulfillment. One of the most compelling revelations is that Gen Zs are seeking a sense of community and belonging in their career, craving connections and collaborations with like-minded individuals, almost similar to the mentality of the people in Asia, where they go and their colleagues, they go to dinner together after work, and everybody hang out and like formulate a bond, like your best friends are on your job kind of thing. Because otherwise, you want to hang out with your homies. If you can get paid while hanging out with your homies, you can consolidate time. They're also recognizing the importance of self-care and mental health, prioritizing their well-being over traditional measures of success. This is a significant departure from previous generations, who often prioritize financial security above all else. By redefining what it means to be successful, Gen Zs is creating a more compassionate and sustainable work culture. The implications of this trend are far reaching, with significant consequences for employers, society, and the economy as a whole. As Gen Z continues to quit their jobs in droves, it's clear that something needs to be changed. By understanding what drives the generation, we can begin to create a more inclusive, supportive, and meaningful work environment that benefits everyone. Gen Z's mass job quitting phenomenon is driven by their desire for autonomy, as I mentioned before. And they really, really look for this meaningful work with a better work-life balance, where they get to hang out and have a good time more than they spend time on their jobs. And it's up to us to respond to these changes that they need and meet most of their expectations. If you're part of Gen Zs or just curious about the trend, I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts the way we've been discussing it throughout the show today. You want to share your experiences or opinions in the comment section below. And definitely don't forget to like and subscribe for more content exploring intersections of work, culture, and identity. That's actually a good topic for us to talk about. So, as I told you guys before, we burned the candle on both ends on this one. And yeah, we were able to come to understand a little bit more insight in comparison to before, because the information that we had gotten before was not nearly as detailed as to why the Gen Zs were walking out on their jobs. But we definitely figured out a little bit more insight today as to what's going on with that. So that gives us a little bit of an understanding as to another reason why I encourage you guys to try to focus more on starting up your own self-employed entities, because you're not always going to find something that you like with your employer. You either do what you love or love how much you get paid doing what you do. It's very rare that you can get both. Now, when you're trying to build for a combination of the two, it takes a long time, dedication, and devotion to build what you love to do and make a good standard of living while doing it. Since that takes drive and dedication, you have to find ambition and motivation from yourself before you start getting support from your peers. Because when everyone else says that you can't do it, you have to find a way to get it done. When everyone else says this is too hard, you have to find a way to make it happen. Where there's a will, there's a way, but you have to find that way. When millionaires have this dilemma, they just pay enough people with brilliant minds to collaborate together to find another way. He says, I want solutions. Everybody comes up with an explanation. Somebody comes up with a result. But the fact is that those of us that don't have that kind of wealth to pay a large quantity of individuals to think of something for us, at the end of the day, we have to think for ourselves. So we have to think outside of the box. We have to put more effort into finding ways to make ourselves more successful so that we are not depending on somebody else to make us financially stable, because they're not going to make us successful. They're going to make us stable. If they make us stable, then we have a reasonable, as long as we show up as much as they want us to, we have a reasonable standard of living. But we're not going to be able to improve that standard of living, since our standard of living is based on how many hours per day we show up for a job, whether it's remote or in person. Until we put ourselves in a position where we're capable of making money even when we're asleep, that's when we're able to find ways to expand our wealth. Because you can make money while you're awake, and your money can make money for you while you're asleep. And that means you're making way more money than what you would have been making if you were only making money while you're awake, showing up. So I try to encourage you guys, find other ways, find something that you love to do and turn it into a business. That's the best thing for you. Because while you might love doing that for a career, somebody else might love experiencing that service from you. Customer service is better when you love your job. It's just a key factor. People who hate their job hate the customers that come to the job and typically have piss poor attitudes. And it's not the customer's fault that they have a piss poor attitude. Usually the boss treats the employee like crap, and then the employee takes it out on the customers because they're not getting paid enough. They need the money. They're not making enough money, and the customer is giving them a harder day than what they were really prepared for, because the boss already gave them a bad day. So they're just taking it out on the customer. And it's misdirected rage, but that gives the business a bad name. The goal is for you to, as your own personal business, to build you something that you love to do it well, and then sell it so that other people can buy what you do and you can make a profit off of doing what you love. If that's the case, it is easy for you to show up for work every day because you want to do this. The same way I show up for this podcast every day, because I want to do this, not because I have to do this. I could easily not come, but I don't feel right not coming. Therefore, I'm always here. But getting paid for doing something like this would be beneficial for me, because I teach you I learn stuff in order for me to teach it to you. So I'm expanding my own knowledge. I'm expanding your knowledge, and I turn over a profit for that. And some of y'all don't even have to do anything for it. A lot of y'all watch the show just for the sake of watching it and learn so much stuff on the free ski. But a lot of y'all show me a lot of love and donate to the podcast and special thanks, emojis, and other such, and show support to the channel. But the fact is that I put a lot of effort into it, and I got to keep doing it until it turns into the type of business where it pays for itself. And when I tell you that because I want to tell you this, that if in the event that you want to be whatever it is that you want to be in life, you have to find out what avenues you have to take, make sure that past decisions haven't destroyed that dream yet and burnt that bridge without you knowing about it, and then keep going. So just like I told Jesse, if you want to be a lawyer, bro, go do it. Go do it. Go do it. But just note that if you are a conscious person that is leaning on morals and ethics, and you will find yourself as a lawyer having to decide between an immoral or unethical decision, that's when you're going to question your job choice. It's the same. Doctors have the same thing, have the same issue. Doctors and lawyers are the first two career choices that people recommend for their kids. But doctors and lawyers are two of the toughest jobs ethically that you have to deal with next to a police officer. It's crazy. But police officers are dealing with ethical issues because they make bad choices. But doctors and lawyers deal with ethical issues because their superiors instruct them or order them to do things that they don't really want to do, or order them not to do things that they really wish that they could do. And once they find out that the system that they're employed in is broken, where the average individual does not have an equal equity or equal share of the rights to exist in that entity, that's when individuals start questioning their job choice. So I just say, hey, find a way to do what you do and make it do better. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for tonight. I want to thank you guys for coming to the show. Remember, we're live 7 nights a week. We started about 10 o'clock Central Standard Time, which is 11 o'clock Florida time, 7 o'clock California time, 4 a.m. For Green Minutes time, and 4 a.m. for Universal Standard Time. Ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. And fellas, we're about 75% of the podcast is fellas, as this is a podcast from a male's perspective. I really appreciate you guys showing us love on the show today. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe if you're new. And thank you for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. I will see you guys tomorrow night.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a That's my personal command. I'm not mounted on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.